And my kids can't see the black
So one thing I wanted to say, we do have an agenda. I made a little speech earlier about.
Can't hear you.
Okay, sorry.
I should have bought my bull.
Yes, sorry. Earlier I mentioned that there are some sheets at the back that contain guidelines for the public hearing, just so everybody's on the same page about the quorum and the process and so forth. Sorry, can you hear now?
No, very well.
Assume that we
Speak
can.
up louder. Give him a microphone. He might go got a big mouth. Let me know.
Okay, all right, so we're going to keep meeting in the meantime. All right, so why don't we'll get started now. What we're going to do, if it's all right, well, we're going to move the new business up to the front. There's an application from the Firemen's Association for an addition to the Firemen's Home, which we should be able to deal with very quickly, and then we will go to the agenda with the public hearings. And so that's the order. We'll start now with, I'll invite the Firemen's Association representative to come up. If there is somebody here, yes, sir.
Everybody's going to need to speak up here.
Shout!
Hey folks, everybody's got to keep it down so we can hear. I don't mind, all right? Because I can't help that. Meeting going on, they can't hear it. If you can't, we'll have to have this building. It's overloaded in here now.
Yeah.
Walter,
Yes.
just so everybody knows, the room is right now at capacity. The hallway's starting to get overloaded. All right, so if you can't keep the noise down, we're going to have to exit the hallway, and the only people will be allowed is what's in here now. All right? I can't help that, ma'am.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Tom Davis. I am the owner's project manager for Fairview for the project, and I'm also the project designer of the project. This is Matt Huntington with Schroeder Rivers, civil engineer.
Okay.
We're here tonight to discuss the addition being put on to the museum. Right now, the existing museum is about 39,000 square foot. We're proposing to put two additions on. One that equals about 35,000 square foot addition. I have another one here that's for color lines. You can see. So today's facility would be the non-blue structure. This is the existing entrance to the museum. There's parking lots here. This is the main street. The home is here. Suffolk Drive, the main drive, the pillars comes right down the center. This is the 5 additions. This is the existing 1927 museum. And then we have 1957 edition, 1972 edition, 1982 edition, and a 2000 edition. And in the blue areas, coming out to the north, would be the addition of a new exhibit hall, office space, multi-purpose room for activities within the museum program. And then there's a small apparatus display coming off the east side. We can jump into, show the site, what we have in place. And I will defer that to Matt as he's the expert on it.
Again, I'm not going to with short run details here to do the site design and sort of go through that. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the site up there or not. Currently, it's 121 acres. We're impacting a small fraction of that 121 acres. Right now, as it sits, you know, this area here, my finger is kind of the existing building. The blue area from Tom's drawing before is a shaded area on this drawing. So, bring it up. Essentially, where it says existing museum is the existing museum. This dark dash line here is the footprint of the proposed addition. And these hatched areas that you see here are existing areas that are going to be removed as part of this project. Currently, there are 2 parking areas, this longer finger here, and then the smaller one up closer to the exit. That's going to be removed, obviously, because it's within the footprint of the proposed area. The existing parking lot, the second one up here, is going to remain and be removed as part of the proposed project. Again, some of the details on the site. So essentially what we're proposing to go along with the building addition here will be 2 additional parking areas in a similar fashion to the existing ones, but one pretty similar. You're adding about 30 spaces, 32 spaces per lot. They'll be connected. In this area, there'll be a small retaining wall that's been preliminarily designed now and make it a little bit smaller based on some site grading here to allow these additional spaces. Removal of this parking lot, again, as I said, is going to remain. That'll be resurfaced, probably used as contractor standard area during construction. The area over here by Memorial Garden and the main entrance is going to be reconfigured where there's some new sidewalks in this area. From a site and stormwater perspective, there's an existing stormwater pond here in this location. We've actually run some numbers with the addition of the additional parking areas, and the majority of the site can be handled within this existing stormwater pond to the overflow. To meet our water quality requirements for the Department of Environmental Conservation, what we're going to do is propose what's a bioretention area. It's essentially what it's going to look like from the surface is like a plant bed, planting area with select shrubs and trees and grasses. There'll be one here, just north of the pond, and another one south of the pond here. A portion of the new roof will be guttered over and in this direction, and these 2 additional parking areas will come in these bioretention areas. That filters out any sediment, road salt, etc. before it gets into the pond. The pond provides the storage and ultimately it will overflow, leaving the site in a similar fashion. There'll be some utility reconfiguration to get around this, some new water line, new sewer lines in here. Have it up drawing. Well, honestly, I don't know if anybody can really see it, but essentially we're going to reroute the utilities around the existing, or around the proposed addition and enter the building in a similar fashion to what we did.
Those existing lines actually today are going through the parking lot and would actually be in our footprint, which you don't want underneath the building, so we're going to pull them out and go around. So those are all just existing lines, existing sites, just being relocated around.
Yeah, there's no real new infrastructure. I guess it's a little complex. Go back one page, the only additional stormwater control feature that we will have, part of this roof is going to drain kind of southeast here. So again, for the water quality requirements, we're going to have a few rain gardens, very similar to bioretention areas that I just spoke about. What it is within those, there's actually a soil mix inside there from the surface. Those will then overflow to a similar, not quite a pond of this size here, but kind of a retention area to slow down runoff before it hits the site. So there's no risk of erosion to this existing. That's essentially the site of the township.
Do you have a question about lighting of the site?
Yeah, site lighting, we don't have the drawing currently in front of us on there.
It'll be complementing the existing lighting that's there. For instance, so in the parking areas, there's pole lighting. There's 3 stanchions, like right here. We will actually be taking the existing ones and relocating them. So when we do replicate the new islands on this area here, so we'll be taking those existing light poles right here, this parking lot, and just putting 3 again to emulate what's there, so complement what's there.
What about landscape?
That will be, that's being worked on in conjunction with the bioretention, because the bioretention has a certain species that go into it.
It'll be very similar. I mean, there's going to be basically some grass swales in between these fingers, that parking areas that kind of bring it out to this bioretention area. These grass swales can be planted with trees or, you know, I mean, anything you want to put.
And the tree species is all going to be complementing what's there.
You're still working on your sweat right now?
Yes, yeah. I mean, we'll have it. We haven't submitted the NOI or anything to the DEC. Well, I mean, that's part of the package. This has to be permitted under the general permit, general speeds permit for stormwater discharge for the Department of Environmental Conservation. So as part of that, we submit what's called a notice of intent, which has all our runoff volumes, qualities, what we're doing, practices, et cetera. This will be permitted through this part.
And what is your plan of traffic flow between the new addition and the existing one? Because I know you're building new parking lots.
So today there's 3 of these parking lots. We'll go back here for a second. So if you notice, there's 2. There's 2 fingers here with the main home entrance right here. This is the center line of the new entrance where the new portico is. So this is where the buses and the residents can come in, go under, enter the building. So what we're doing is actually taking this finger, relocating one here, and putting it like another 1.5 over here. So you can see, so traffic flow, there's the existing one right here. This is the existing, we're putting a new one in here. So the traffic flow does not change from today's flow.
And there is a separation between that.
Correct.
Entryway and the entrance.
So yes, this is Suffolk Drive that comes in and actually loops the home. And you don't, it's hard to see, but right here is the actual home footprint, and this is the main entry to the home. And that's the 2 parking lots that are there today, the way it looks. Yeah, everything that's happening is actually on the other side of the loop road around the home.
And regarding the lighting, if you look back at the overall property, you know, I mean, we're talking about lighting these areas here and maybe some wall packs in the front, so I mean, the risk of any sort of photometric spillover on the adjacent properties is
Yeah, this will be all low walking. Today, there's this walkway that has all the smaller poles, I would say.
right.
This is actually even going to be lower, like bollard lighting along the sidewalk.
We're establishing an aesthetic in this board for like hidden light sources. You mentioned it is the old fixtures. So in general, one of the things that we try to do is cut down on light, not just going off the property. When you look at this view, you see this road is not as successful as if you have a nice, cut off with just the parking lot is lit. So we would ask you to pay a lot of attention to lighting.
Certainly, and there's a lot of the LED fixtures we get now, they have shields like that, et cetera. The photometrics
Yes.
are nowhere near they were with the old incandescent.
All I'm saying is it's in a natural area. It should not be something that looks like a movie.
Yeah, we don't want to light it up.
That's not our intent.
Well, our general policy has been do something that was complexity of the schedule of other hearings, so I'd like to talk to my board about how they feel about this.
I have a question. Sure. The site plans are great, but you didn't see a elevation. Like what the buildings look like.
So here it is. This would be, this is pretty much, this is the front elevation, with the plan laid out. So today's home, this is the existing 1927 home, or museum. That's the existing 1927 museum. All in front of the existing 1990 edition. And all over here would be the all-new architecture, which is brick, different style of brick, precast, lintels, precast banding, a tower element with, again, brick, storefront system.
Can we ask for a full-size model of that, or we just have any proposed? existing, get it, like the full plan has the existing proposed.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would be changing is, this has a gable, this has an end gable, which is just going to peek over here. The rest of
I
it
think
would
he's asking for full size.
no, that would be all site plan.
Yes, I understand.
I mean, I can bring our CD.
We understand, we're here for site plan.
Okay. I can absolutely bring a lighting plan with, again, the big lights that would probably be asked or talked about are the existing ones being relocated. We're doing that for multiple reasons. We're doing that because they're all on the site. And two, it's the economics. Why take the whole site
Go
down?
check them out. Great, so.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor? Any opposed? Bring some nice color landscape for
It's really very helpful
It is.
for everyone.
Our old eyes.
To see rendering.
Okay, acoustics courtesy of Peter Young. Thank you, Peter Young. Okay, Mark, you made it. Well, now I've got too much power to speak.
No, you don't.
So let's get going. Our next.
Speak up.
Oh, okay, sorry. The next item we have here is a special use permit application from Carly Holdings. Now, before we do that, I have a brief statement now that Peter has brought this to me that I would like to read, which is to everyone's benefit this evening, and I will just take a second to find it. All right. Oh, you do? Excellent. I was going to say we can do the first one and then I'll read it, but if you have it, I'll read it now.
Why don't you go ahead, Carly?
All right, so let's get going. Who's here from Carly? Yeah, you want to address the public? Yeah. You got
Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Move a little so you don't get feedback.
Parcel we have in question is in the general commercial GC district. In 1962 to 1979, there was a building on this parcel used as a takeout fast food and ice cream business. It actually shut down around 1972. After that, it was used as a parking lot for new vehicles, and then the structure was taken down in the 1980s, and the whole lot was used for parking for new vehicles until 1998. After that, it was a parking lot for the adjacent dentist's office until January 2018. On a daily basis, there was 20 to 30 cars coming and going, Monday through Friday. Carly Holdings owns 5 parcels that are 400 foot of each other on Fairview Avenue and Parkwood Boulevard. In 2018, we paid $26,125 of property taxes and on these parcels. Renting as a parking lot is not cutting it. Doesn't even pay the tax and the insurance on this lot. That's why we propose putting the storage units on this parcel. The units are wood construction. They're on skids. They're the same type you put in your backyard. We've configured the units so there'll be an open board. The way they're configured, we were thinking of putting it down the center, but there's not enough room. So we left this open for people can come in, and there's more than enough room, okay? Basically, there's an entrance here on Oakwood, and there'll be an exit.
I'm so sorry, can you sort of try to?
Yeah, okay.
The borders all see this.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, sorry, go ahead.
I'll start over. We left the center open. All the units are on 3 sides, okay? There's no units up on Fairview Avenue, and the reason is when somebody comes up here to make a turn, you gotta have a sight line, so we kept them back. The entrance down here off of Oakwood, and then there's an entrance here where you would come out from onto Fairview Avenue. The thing I gotta stress is, from 1962 when Obie's Fish Fry, a lot of you don't know, but that's what it started as, before Obie's lot. Okay? That's the same configuration. Actually, always this was all open for a driveway. So there's always been an entrance and an exit, or 2 entrances. Okay? There's nothing changed on this configuration. All right? And the only thing I can say is instead of cars and trucks and RVs using it, now there'll be storage units. And these units, like I say, are on skids, and we kept them all on the perimeter and away from the sight line. That's probably I gave you some pictures, a little better picture. Looking at that, just a little over.
Did you have anything circulate up here? Or?
No, I did not. I wish for those.
Okay.
No.
Here, do you want
Okay.
to someone in the front?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think this is the appropriate moment to ask members of the public if anybody has comments on this application. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Brian Nicholson. I've been a lifelong resident of Hudson and the Boulevards. Aesthetically speaking, in our opinion, my wife and I, and many of our neighbors, this really doesn't fit the Boulevards. So it's quiet, green, a lot of flowers. We care about the crops. And I know I've had some conversation with some buskies, some people with the school district. I'm not going to get predictions or anything like that, but there's concerns. In the morning, moms and dads are bringing kids to school, and there's buses. I don't feel it belongs there, and that's my opinion. I don't think we need it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. You have a question?
Where do you live
I live on 4 Oakwood Boulevard.
in relationship to the,
Oh, this would be, when I have morning coffee in the morning, watching the sunrise, that's what I'll be looking at. Thank you.
Yes, Eileen. Hi.
Hi, I'm Eileen Howard. I live at 7 Bailey Boulevard, and I'm a council member for the 5th Ward. And a lot has changed since Obie's was there. Right now, you cannot get on and off the boulevards. And the additional people, if they get off Fairview onto Oakwood to go in there, then within a very short space, people are going to be stopping, turning into there. I cannot imagine how you could get out from that space onto Fairview. You can't from the posted boulevards. It is an array proposed that I haven't seen anyplace else in Hudson, and I think probably to have to ask for a special exception is exactly what this would be. And the folks do not want that much new traffic coming in there in what's a quiet neighborhood on the way back and forth to the schools.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry, Walter, one thing I wanted to mention, I believe it's probably premature to introduce something so different than anything else we have in Hudson before we even start looking at coding and all of the changes that we want to make to the city. So thanks.
Okay, anybody else?
Hi, I'm Barbara Digg over at 8 Union Street, but I'm a dog walker on Oakwood and Glenwood. Well, you come over here, Jeff. Okay. It's hot back there. It's hard to hear you kids. I would just have to interject that the traffic in that area, however it was modified at Green Street years ago, that became a known shortcut into town, the speeding is just tragic. And of course, Miss Ryder being hit by a car last fall. I just think adding more traffic, I haven't heard anything about this proposal, so I feel premature that you're contributing. But because I walk back there quite a bit and understand the residential nature, and is this going to be one of the storage units like you see next to ShopRite and out there on Jocelyn? Is that what the proposal is?
No.
Picture of them. I heard a no.
No.
Kathy, it must be you. What's your no?
They're sheds, they're wooden sheds.
The wooden sheds?
Yeah, there's pictures. Who's got
Oh,
the,
instead of aluminum, they're wood. Okay.
Like
Beautiful.
this, if you can see that.
Oh, took the words right out of my mouth. Beautiful. No, to what point though? I'm sorry. Is it storage?
Yeah, there's storage.
I just,
there's not enough in Greenport already.
yeah, I don't understand, Ms. Pirro. I wouldn't go near one of your projects anyway, so respectfully.
I think it would set a precedent for every empty corner in the city of Hudson, any empty that someone would want to do the same thing. And I know I've lived here all my life. I don't want to see an empty lot filled with storage units. We have them all over Greenport. There's enough for people who need storage to go there. This is not what Hudson is about. I don't want it in my neighborhood. There's so much traffic. Eileen has said it, getting on the top of Oakwood. We all have animals, worried about bats. It is a through, when school is in session, kids are walking to school, parents are driving, buses are up and down. It's just going to add to more traffic. And not to mention the aesthetic part of it. If this were possibly to go through, I would hope that Nooch would put up some trees and make it a little bit more park-like, but talk to multiple people on our street, and they don't want this either, so that's...
Sir, one more thing, if I may interject.
Yes.
There is also a historical marker on this site. Okay, it was around the point of the Revolutionary Civil War. Okay, or whatever that may be with. Thank you. Yes.
I'm just curious if you've run the numbers. I mean, that doesn't seem even like very many storage units. And if the taxes aren't being paid, then it kind of seems
All right.
silly.
The way this works, you can address her question through...
yes, I'm not supposed to, but I will. That's the way public hearing works. Okay, you all set? Basically, I can take these units, 8 by 20s, and some will be cut in half, some will be 5 foot. Okay?
Could you speak up?
These units can be, there's basically 10 units, all right? 9 of them are 8 by 20. They can be cut in half, or they can be cut in 5-foot sections. Depends on what somebody would like to do. You can put a petition in. And I can only tell you that taxes and insurance, forget renting a lot. First of all, the dentist's office was sold. And actually, there's another parking lot right next door to the dentist's office. But that said, we're just trying, this is a commercial piece of property. Every piece on Route 9 in the city of Hudson, starting from Pro Printers out, is zoned general commercial. Okay? This is a permitted use. All right? And to the point, there is only one, there's grass actually right here. Okay? There's a grassy area. That's all city, that's city property. We can put some sort of trees in there. Okay? The city would have to do it. They have to plan it because it's city property, but that can be done. But that said, we tried to configure this on the outside, just to leave room. And there's really, as far as traffic, yes, that is very busy. And actually, just as a point of interest, up on here where you take the turn from Oakwood on the Fairview, the buses couldn't make this turn, so quite a few years ago, the city came in and made this turn. So they actually were encroaching on our property about 6 foot. But I let them go. But, and then as far as that historical marker sets here, we're going to sit back 15 feet. And I'm doing that for a reason. There's more than enough. This is the line where you pull up to see. You have to do that just to see the traffic both ways. These units are back here. We're 15 foot behind here. That historical marker sits up here next to the stop sign. Okay? And the other thing, we left again. We had to do this. I even couldn't put one here. We put one in the front because I didn't want to. You can't block that. You know, I didn't want to block when you look down the road. And yes, there's a lot of traffic there. We all know there's a lot of traffic there. Like I said before, when it was a parking lot, it was probably worse. This, you know, having units in here, no matter how many you have, how much traffic you're going to have. You know, once people, what are they going to do? Once every couple of weeks or one, maybe. But that's pretty much it.
I'm sorry, did you say anything about the price?
What's that?
Did you run numbers to see
Yes,
if
I
those
did.
would actually
Yes,
pay for your
yes.
taxes?
I would never do it if I couldn't pay it. Okay? But you gotta remember, this is all general commercial. This can be pretty much just about anything. It's permitted uses, could be gas stations, could be a lot of things. Okay? So,
There are rules about raising.
Oh, sorry,
oh,
sorry. Yes.
so then,
There are.
They are, but he has rights as a property owner, so we're here to hear what you have to say and what he has to say.
this is not in the historic district.
Can I just remind everybody that you're supposed to identify yourself?
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, Susan Meyer, resident of Hudson. So you could see the backs of these sheds, either just the back.
Well, no, the only place you're going to see is on Oakwood Boulevard. This is the dentist parking lot, and there's a fence here. There's a fence, and there's a gentleman right here who actually loves the idea because now we can block out Route 9 and the noise. But that said, the only ones that are facing is right here. There's 20, 46, there's 70 feet of the back of the shed. And then there's probably a 6 to 7 foot buffer zone behind the shed till you get into the street.
So that's like a sidewalk.
Well, there's grass. There was no sidewalks on this side of the street that can be used as a walk, that's why, as a sidewalk, okay? Well, the sidewalks are on the other side. This side, nobody had sidewalk. And that's what we were thinking of leaving that. But that's where I was saying, we could put some shrubs or something.
Yes.
Usually,
identify yourself.
oh, I'm sorry, my name is Hillary, I live in Hudson, Hillary Hillman on Union Street. I wanted to know if the applicant has indicated, usually storage units have fencing and barbed wire and security and such things. I'm wondering if that's been addressed if that's been addressed.
Okay, I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes.
You addressed your security with fencing, barbed wire, and that sort of thing.
Fence. These are the units. This is wide open because you can't put anything there. We'll be able to see and answer the rest of your question. There is no barbed wire and there is no other fencing going up. Okay. There's already a fence here. That's the side facing the dentist office. And there's a fence here. Okay? So and then here you got the backs of the buildings. All right? And so the only thing that's basically open is, well, this entranceway and this, and then the front actually, because you can't put anything there because you're going to block the site. When you make the turn off of Oakwood, you got to be able to see the traffic. And that's the strip where you pull up to. So if I put anything way out here, okay, which we could do, we'd still be off the fog line far enough, you wouldn't be able to see. So you can't put anything in front.
So, good.
I just wanted to
must be a reason why businesses that have security do have security, like we have. But
This is not anything like this. It's open. There is other facilities around the site. Okay? I'm not putting barbed wire, I'm not putting fences, I'm not putting gates. Some do. This will not, absolutely not.
My question is, and I think the answer is this, can you control the setbacks or?
Yes, he actually, and that's why on the basis here is that it's a permitted use, but it needed a, for the site.
Right.
Kathy, will there be night lighting on the site?
You can put it if you want it, but I wasn't going to.
Please use the microphone.
Yes, thank you.
It's a residential neighborhood, okay? And if you ever been on Route 9 with that gas station and everything, there's more than enough light. If the board wants more lights, I can put them.
No, we don't. But the question was, will there be night lighting? And I think you're saying no.
No.
How are you going to go to the store? You might go to the storage it has the amount of space that by code you turn around and come out.
That's why I left it. We left, actually, it was 30, I think the plane is 16 feet, we left 32, 34 feet, I think. And that's why we left the center. I wanted to put them in the middle, but it just wouldn't work. So people can actually go in there and come out the other way. But, you know, the flow would be better if they went out on Fairview.
Yes, I mean,
I would want to know if, given all the holdings in that area that Carly has, if this is approved, would those spaces be used for the same thing?
Those spaces. Which ones are they?
Yeah, the ones that you, the one on Parkwood, next to the beauty shop.
No, there's properties there, okay? And I'm gonna tell you the other thing is, the one on Parkwood has always been a parking lot, but that's owned residential. This is general commercial, okay? That's not gonna happen.
that's my wife, tell her I'm busy.
How many questions? Mark, you gotta get.
Just briefly, what are the hours of accessibility then?
What are the hours?
Yeah.
That you can access your woodshed?
24 hours.
24 hours? Well,
We
then-
can put, again, this is, we can put, I can put time limits. We're gonna put time limits on it, okay?
Well, that's two different answers.
No, I know that. But we have, that's something we gotta iron out, okay?
Oh, so this is just strictly preliminary. We have a lot of ironing to do. I'm not here to be contrary. I mean, for those of us, it's my nature, I know. What do you say? But I mean, generally, when you access your storage unit, a light goes on.
Excuse me,
Hi,
that's me.
Barbara Day. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't know you people were back there.
Yeah, we're the engineer.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for doing this. So this is strictly preliminary,
No, he's here for public hearing.
but no approval. It's way too early.
We're listening to what you all have to say, and then we're going to decide where we want to go.
But I heard him reference the other resident's question about the numbers. Does that mean you've learned that there's a need for storage in Hudson?
That's not within your purview, Barbara.
Oh, well, little is.
Well, it's his property.
No, but I'm
It's his
thinking,
business. I mean,
again,
but that isn't our
always going to
job.
come back to traffic and speed limits and, you know,
Address a concern to me, and we will then address it to the applicant.
well, I think that already the traffic is a terrible issue.
I mean, we're listening to what you guys have to say. Definitely is a little.
Nicole Vidor, I live in Hudson, and I travel through Glenwood a lot in my day. And it's definitely a community that people really take real
Sorry, would
The
you
whole
mind,
neighborhood.
sorry, would you mind speaking
Sure.
up, please?
I'm
Use
saying
the
that this
microphone.
particular neighborhood is very cared for. It's a family neighborhood, right? And I think when the question was asked when it's going to be open, and if this isn't preliminary, that's very important. Because I think in a residential, even though this is commercial, you'd have to have lighting if somebody comes in to use their facility 24 hours a day, number one. Number two, the material that it's been made out of. We all know that wood now deteriorates very quickly. So this thing might look really nice for a couple of years, and then it's going to look like that. And I think it's a very unfair thing to do to a neighborhood.
Okay, do the members of the board have any comments they would like to share? Yes, Mark.
I know it's a parking lot right now, but my question was about...
Can't hear. Use the microphone.
Thanks for the tip.
Thank you.
I know it's a parking lot already. My question is just about stormwater runoff and if there's going to be any drainage so that there's not a problem with water there.
Again, same as it's been for the last, since 1962 when they put the place up. Okay? So it's actually pitched right onto the street. There's nothing, there's no more area, it's stone. Stone fence. He said they're going to be on skid on top, but that's always just drained right off. The street. Actually, right there's a curb. Is open. There's a curb here, okay, and then they have a drain right down here. Water's never been a problem with it. It's a stone-based, stone-based water.
What is your schedule? What is your schedule for this? I mean, you're projected time.
Well, we have to put it in the I would
But that's soon.
What was the answer?
A couple of months.
Thank you.
My suggestion is going to be that we keep comment open on this because it seems to me as though there are a number of people with some questions. And we invite written comment to the chair, correct? And we will take this up at our next meeting.
And please copy the whole board.
Please copy the whole board. Our email addresses can be found on the city website. Okay, we'll continue the conversation, but please let us hear from you. This is a good opportunity and a good discussion. Linda?
I'm just curious whether this would apply to all commercial property in the city of Hudson. This idea?
No, I mean, he can do certain things as,
Just
right,
like
yeah.
all commercial property in the city of Hudson, this would be acceptable.
I can't make a,
And not the zoning.
yeah, yeah. And Kathy, I would say that the neighbors have expressed some very strong opinions tonight, and because we're going to keep the public hearing open, please consider what has been said, landscape, aesthetics, safety, neighborhood feel. If you want to modify the proposal at all to take some of those things into account, you know, you've got a month to do it, and we're open to seeing.
Well, what I would say is, the only modification I can do is shrubbery. Want light, put light. The city would have to do it. That's the way it works.
Let's say that, I mean, I can think of a couple of things I would suggest. The public has lots of ideas. If there are beyond just, I don't want this to happen, suggestions on how to make this better, that's also a very valid form of communication. So let's keep the public hearing open. Let's work together to see if we can solve some, if not all, of your neighbors' concerns, and we'll see you next month.
All right, so let me know what the concern is.
Well, I think, okay, yeah. Yeah. Correct. Okay, so may I have,
I move that we adjourn the public hearing, but keep it open until next month. And, right, so that's my motion.
Okay. Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And would like to urge neighbors or anyone else who has comments on this to please communicate in writing before the next meeting, which is the second Tuesday of the month, so that we know what people think, and if you have suggestions as to how it could be made more appealing, that would be great.
Great. All right, so I just want to read this very quickly. Good evening, and thank you all for coming to share your views with our community. We all know there are some strong feelings about the issues at hand, and it's important that we maintain a civil atmosphere and allow all points of view to be expressed. We are here tonight so that the members of the public can hear the proceedings and to express their views. We seek information, and we require a calm, rational environment in order to do our work. So we also ask that the audience avoids applause and other distractions that will detract from our purpose. Due to the large number of people here, we ask that you limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes in order to allow time for everyone who wishes to speak. The chair reserves the right to cut off anyone who makes inappropriate statements, goes on too long, or in any way disrupts the decorum and professional atmosphere of this critically important meeting. All comments and questions should be directed to the planning board, which will then determine the correct course of action. Please be aware that the planning board has put into place a policy of immediately suspending the proceedings if anyone creates and/or contributes to the feeling of a hostile environment. Finally, please remember that the planning board is a volunteer group of your fellow citizens and that we have no agenda other than to work to benefit the city of Hudson to the best of our abilities. We are legally required to follow certain protocols, and our authority is limited to a fairly narrow area that deals largely with physical design. It is my hope that the opinions expressed tonight will include rational arguments for why the planning board should or should not agree to what the applicant proposes, and what conditions should be placed on the applicant in the event that a conditional use permit is going to be issued. Thank you very much for your attention. Now, by way of introduction, I know a lot of you have been to many hearings before on this question, and so the background for those of you who are not entirely familiar with this is that in 2011, the City of Hudson did a lower waterfront restoration plan, revitalization plan, and that plan led to zoning, and in that zoning was embedded the course that we're on tonight. In that zoning, it said that should the owners of the sand and gravel company physically alter, or do a number of other things that would change their status from a non-conforming use, they would have to seek a conditional use permit. So we have arrived at that moment. Colarusso and Sons are seeking a conditional use permit from the planning board, and we are seeking the public's input into this. And I would just say that we ask that you all try and understand that we are all on a learning curve here. I speak for the entire planning board when I say that no one on this board has made up their minds about anything. We have our opinions, we have our thoughts, we have our hopes and wishes and aspirations, but it's really up to you, the citizens, tonight to tell us what you think, and we will put together an entire record, and as I said earlier, we will keep this meeting open multiple times, whatever's necessary, so everyone who wishes to speak can be heard. So thank you very much. Does anyone on the planning board want to say anything else, or shall I open the meeting with a request that the first person on the list?
You should have a motion and a second.
Okay. Yes, that's exactly. And could I have a second? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Meeting is open, and I would like to call upon... That would be helpful. Okay, I'm not nervous. Okay, so yes, Pat, before we do this, would you mind?
With the microphone. Yeah.
Good evening, folks. My name is Pat Prendergast. I'm a licensed engineer from Kinderhook, New York. I'm here with the folks from Colarusso. Colarusso and Son is a gravel and sand company. They also do hot mix asphalt. They've been in town since 1912, and they hire 150 of your neighbors. The project in front of the planning board is basically two parts. One is a conditional use permit request for replacement of a bulkhead down at the dock, and the second has to do with the proposed haul road. I'll start with the haul road, because I think most of you are probably more interested in that. The way it works today, Colarusso has their mines up here in Greenport on Newman Road, and when they want to bring crushed rock, which they shoot the rock in the quarry, crush it, rinse it, wash it, put it in 18-wheelers, some 10-wheelers. They need to send a lot of it down to the Hudson dock. It goes out in barges, it goes down the river, goes up the river. Some of it went in the new Tappan Zee Bridge. So how they get these trucks down to the dock now, basically they leave the quarry, they go down Newman Road, down Route 66 to a section of 23B, they go down Green Street, then they go down Columbia Street on the truck route, and when their trucks are on the way to the dock, they make a left on 3rd Street, also known as 9G, and then they make a right, they go across the South Bay Causeway, down Front Street, across the Broad Street crossing, and into the dock. The stone is dumped on the paved area there. When a barge shows up, they load the stone onto the barge from there. When the trucks are unloaded, this is one-way traffic across the South Bay Causeway. They go back across Broad Street crossing, up Front Street to the far end of Columbia Street, and then they travel up Columbia Street, back up to the quarry. The whole road proposal that they have in front of the board that they would like to do is, the plan is to construct a new haul road across this old gravel mine here, or this, I should call it a rock mine, because this was the old...
Excuse me, is it possible, could you lift this up somehow, because we can't see part of the map?
Perhaps someone could help you back from the company. Get somebody from the company.
No, that's all right, I can pick it up. The fireman dropped it. Better? All right, sorry about that. All right, so anyways, the proposal in front of the board tonight is, actually, part of this is in the town of Greenport, so the city Hudson line is somewhere over in here. This part of the project has already been approved by the town of Greenport a couple of years ago, but the plan is to construct a new entrance out onto Route 9, and then go through the former cement company property, down an old railroad bed, through down to the South Bay Causeway. The South Bay Causeway would be, the existing path across there now is only 16 foot wide. It would be moved to the center of the causeway, and the area would be paved 24 foot wide, so they could do two-way traffic. So the traffic would go from the mine on this side of Newman Road, through the gravel mine, cross Route 9, through the woods, cross 9G, over the South Bay Causeway, down Front Street, and cross at the Broad Street crossing and go to the dock. It wouldn't go through any of these city streets, any of these neighborhoods. It's through the woods. Another benefit of this particular project is that this entrance out onto Route 9 here would also be able to be used by folks from the southern part of the county who are coming up here to buy either rock products or hot mix asphalt, and they can come along here and make a right turn and go through the quarry. Now, today, they can't do that. If some town is working on roads and they've got 100 trucks that day, they're going to come down this truck route. They're going to go down Worth Avenue. They're going to go through your 7th Street Park. They're going to go down Green Street past the new Stewart's and up into the quarry. And then when they're done, when they get their load, they're going to go back through there, whether it's got smelly hot mix asphalt in it or stone. They're going back through 7th Street Park, up Worth Avenue, and down south. So when this is constructed, I think their estimates were something like 12,000 trucks a year will be removed from this particular loop. So when the whole road is constructed, essentially the rest of the trucks from Colarusso that were going to the dock will be off-road now. They'll be going down to the dock down that way. So this part of the project is all approved by the town of Greenport. The road crossing is approved by DOT. They have a work permit for that. They have a work permit for here from DOT. The work in the South Bay Causeway is all approved by DEC. There's actually some replanting areas in there. They've also agreed that when the causeway is improved, rather than mowing the whole 100-foot wide area, they're going to leave it more natural. They're not going to mow it. They're going to let trees grow up in there. So it'll end up being about a 24-foot wide path with about 5 foot of grass on either side. All right. So, well, the only other thing about the haul road is, of course, this is all gravel now. It creates some dust when they go down through there on a dry day. When this is paved, that will end any of that dust. Also, there's a section about 200 feet of South Front Street that isn't currently paved, and they are proposing to pave that to City Hudson standards so that none of the roads they'll be running on will be unpaved. So as they go past here, they won't be generating any dust. So that's it for the haul road. I'll talk about the dock a little bit. Okay, so what brought us to City Hudson on the dock was when the folks at Colarusso bought this property back in 2014, they had asked me to come out and look at this bulkhead because the ground was all settling behind it. And we brought in some structural people to take a look at that, and what we found was that although this is all steel sheet piling that's hammered way into the riverbed, this area along here was poured concrete on top of wood, and it was quite rotten and starting to settle in. So we got permits from the Army Corps and the DEC for replacing that bulkhead in kind. And so what's there now is hammered in steel sheets that match the rest of the dock. What we have agreed to with the planning board in prior meetings, there was a request for some kind of screening. The board suggested it was a good idea to have some screening. So we proposed some screening along the dock here, which would essentially cover up operations on this part of the dock. If people really wanted to see ships getting loaded, or if they wanted to see the lighthouse, they still could see that from this vantage point, from the tip of Rick's Point here. That's why the trees end here and don't go all the way out there. We met with planning board members, we met with the city's engineer, and this was what was decided there. Also along the fence here, it was decided that it would be desirable to screen this inside the fence. So we did screening there. We also added screening along here, so if you're in the park and trucks were rounding the corner on Broad Street, that would screen them a bit. These are just the construction plans here. Let's see if we can here. This is just an engineered plan of what was there. This was the existing bulkhead. This is the replacement. It's a grand total of 75 feet. It's in the same location. More or less, it was a safety repair. These were areas where the ground had sunk in, and it's all nice and level there now. There are folks that use that small waterway for kayaking. This is a picture that I had taken before the work was done. This is the concrete bulkhead here. It sets on wood pilings down in there that were probably put in, I don't know, 50, 75 years ago. They're all rotten now. This is what the new steel looks like with the ballast behind it. This area would be all planted up to this point here. This is where it's new. This is existing. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Anyway, all right, I'll flip back one page. Sorry about that. This is what it looked like before. That's the concrete bulkhead sitting on the wooden piers, and that's where it rotted, and it was settling in, and it was falling in here. That's why, we put the Jersey barriers there so trucks wouldn't go close to the edge, because if they did, they probably were going in. There's no products that get shipped over this dock. This is more or less just a safety thing to keep the land from falling in. This is all going to be treed across there anyway, so the water's very shallow there. You can kayak in there, but that's about it. It's not of any commercial value. Here's some pictures that a friend of Hudson took from their boat. This shows the concrete. It shows the rotten wood here. It shows how it's settling in. And this is what it looks like roughly today. It's not a great picture, but you can see what was replaced. It has, like I said, it has essentially no, commercial value to it other than to preserve the property. And this is a view of what it looks like from the park. This is the old sheet piling. This is the new sheet piling. And this is existing trees that are there today. I have another slide that shows what the proposed screening might look like. These pictures and simulation were done by the LA group at our request. Okay, so these pictures on this particular page here are from the intersection of the driveway of the Basilica and South Front Street. This is how it looks today. That's the first picture. This is how it would look when the plantings are first put in. And these were plantings that I had helped pick out with the landscape architects. And if the board had, a different variety they'd like to see, that could easily be changed. Anyway, this is what it might look like when it was first planted, and this is what the screening might look like in 5 years. There's some forsythias, there's some evergreens. I honestly think the forsythias would look a lot bigger than that after 5 years. Anyway, so for you folks over here, this is what it looks like today. This is what it would look like at planting, and this is the simulation at 5 years. And then one more just to show you here. This is from Rick's Point at the park. This top picture is essentially what it looks like today. This picture here shows what the plantings would look like when first planted. And people question, well, why would you put in big plantings to start with? Well, typically when you transplant big trees, you have a hard time getting them to start and grow. They tend to just die on you. So this is what it would look like in the first planting. And then this last picture here is what it would look like at 5 years. And this is a computer simulation. Obviously, I don't have pictures of it in 5 years.
Excuse me, but there is no difference in that.
Well, I'll leave this up and you can come and look at it.
Sorry, Judge. You can talk to us. You'll have a chance to comment.
All right. I'll leave this one up here so y'all can look at it. But really, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Someone on the board want to say anything before we start to your comments? Our suggestion
a very good suggestion because we have a microphone. Maybe people on this list could kind of hover and come up and speak in the mic. So the first person, Peter Young. Peter, would you come up, please?
We can't hear you.
Okay.
Peter Young.
Yeah.
In other words, could we have the people who wish to speak sort of come up so that when their time comes, they're ready to speak? Okay, so, all right, so first Peter Young, then Sam Pratt, then Julie Metz.
But remember, you're addressing us, right?
Okay, you want me to face you? I own the speaker and the mic. Is that a conflict of interest? I might be violating state statute 427B4.
Filled with trash.
Is this working for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Peter Young, 512 Warren Street. I've been a business owner here for about 28 years. I served on the planning board under Mayor Dick Tracy. There actually was a Mayor Dick Tracy, for those of you who don't remember. I'm one of the directors of the Valley Alliance. We're a local citizens group that tries to get good outcomes on land use issues here in Hudson and Columbia County. And we've been engaged in paying attention to this one for quite some time. And I can tell you, when I was on the planning board, we never had anything of this complexity come before us. You got 2 municipalities, 2 highway crossings, a rail crossing, a passage through a wetland, dock operations. It's a handful, so I sympathize with the board. I believe a representative from our wonderful local representative, Dee Dee Barrett, is going to be here tonight. He'll probably make some reference to the $100,000 grant that she secured to study truck traffic in Hudson. He'll probably expand on that a bit, but I want to mention it because I would hope that the board bears in mind in your deliberations on this application that hopefully that grant will lead to a better trucking scheme that everybody would buy into. Not only the Colarusso gravel trucks, but all of the big trucks that come through the city of Hudson. Amazon.com, ShopRite, UPS, FedEx. If you live along the street, you're well aware that there are 60-foot long trucks constantly going up that corridor. So hopefully that state grant is going to lead us into a better situation. When Greenport was designated as the lead agency for this project, the commissioner of DEC wrote a letter giving that status to Greenport. They did their review, and in the opinion of many, it was a pretty superficial review. But the good news is, at the bottom of the letter, he wrote a paragraph or 2 very specifically reminding the Hudson Planning Board of its empowerment and its authority over the portion of the project that's within the city of Hudson. So my hope is that the board will understand that and take it seriously. Your board has the potential to review every aspect of this application and set constraints as you deem necessary or fit. Excuse me, I'm drying out. Is there water? Is this taxpayer water?
It's mine. I paid for it. I'm uncompensated for the service.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Okay, I'll wrap it up quickly. One thing, at the first opportunity, I will mail to all the board members, if you don't already have it, a link to the decision by Judge Melkonian in response to the lawsuit that was filed by the applicant. He wrote a very clear and extremely decisive decision that basically outlines the roadmap for the planning board going forward. You have full authority under seeker to review every aspect of this application, and it is my hope that all the board members are aware and ready to exercise your full authority under seeker.
Okay,
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Pratt. Oh yeah, no clapping, right.
Good evening, Sam Pratt, 175 Hoyle Road in Taconic. I also have had a desk used to live in Hudson, and I've had a desk in town continuously for about 21 years. And I'm here because I was looking for a wooden storage shed. I heard you might be able to help me. No, actually.
Next month, Sam.
I filed this afternoon some comments with all of you electronically. Some of your email addresses bounced back. I'll let you know about that. Yeah, the city addresses, like Betsy's. I brought one hard copy that Peter and I signed just for your records, but you should all have that in your email. If you don't, let me know. There's also an attachment there of 678 pages, and that sounds excessive. It's historical documents related to this property, and the Valley Alliance hopes that indeed the Planning Board will be holding this hearing open, because what we have submitted is simply an outline of the comments we intend to make. There's 25 points in there, about 25 documents, and we intend to flesh those out in much greater detail while this public hearing is extended. I think the crucial thing that I want to mention here, and there's an awful lot of history. I mean, I was on a truck route task force, if you can believe it, in 1998, 99 with John Perica and Dan Grandinetti and Pat Manning. If those names mean anything to anybody except maybe Pat and John and Laura. And that's a long story. I was here for the AmeriClean fight, where they tried to turn what's now the Basilica into a toxic waste processing plant. And of course here for the St. Lawrence Cement fight, the LWRP, and many other milestones. There were people long before I ever got here that have been fighting to try to make this waterfront something that serves all of the people of Hudson, rather than just narrow corporate interests for generations. And this is a major opportunity because, as Judge Melkonian said, and as your own zoning law says, because Colarusso went ahead and did work on their property without a permit from the city, they lost their grandfathered status that they had previously. And that means, as I understand the law, that they have no permits to do anything at the dock right now. Nothing. Now, the thing that I find so peculiar, I mean, for instance, we've been presented with, well, this is about a bulkhead repair and a haul road. I believe this review has to be about every single thing they do on that property. And I also believe, I'll wrap up momentarily. We were shown, for instance, a new document tonight that's not in the application. At least I've never seen it. I've downloaded every document on your site. We need a full application for the public to be able to comment properly on this, and I have confidence that you guys will make that happen, and you'll find many of the questions that I think need to be answered in my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
3 minutes.
For you all to know, we're timing it up here, so we've got it.
We have.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next we have Julie Metz and Virginia Martin.
Okay, good evening to the planning board. I have not emailed my statement because I finished it recently, but pardon? Oh, I'm Julie Metz. I live in Hudson and on Warren Street. And this is a printed copy, and I will be very happy to email further copies to you. Good evening to the planning board. A majority of you voted to schedule this meeting to hear comments from the public. According to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, which is SEQR, and the SEQR Handbook, this type of public comment meeting should happen at a later time according to a clear process which can be summarized as follows. First, determine whether a use variance is required. Second, decide on a lead agency for the SEQR review. Third, that lead agency would then conduct a full environmental assessment form. It's called an EAF. Fourth, the lead agency would then decide whether or not, or if, an environmental impact statement, which is EIS or supplemental environmental impact statement, is appropriate. Only after all those procedures are complete would it be appropriate to have a meeting to hear public comment. By that point, the community would have access to the information from all these forms and would understand the issues and impacts involved. It is actually unfortunate that this event is occurring prematurely before the planning board and public understand the facts related to the applicant's proposal and its impacts on the residents here. I would respectfully ask that the planning board reassess its approach with this applicant and follow SEQR procedures. The situation we have here this evening is the direct result of a failure to follow the secret process. I would also urge members of our planning board to take a deep look to the actions of this company over the last few years, to ask serious questions about the company's motivation and possible endgame, and to consider the far-reaching results on the people who live here now and the generations that will follow us. Some members of the current planning board are not familiar with Hudson's long waterfront ordeal. A number of people here in the Valley Alliance who are present here this evening can provide a complete history. But since we are gathered here this evening, I will share my observations about the actions of the applicant and its representatives based on over 2 years of attending public meetings here in Hudson and before that in Greenport. Here are some facts. Colarusso operated for many years without running trucks on our city streets and without a riverfront dock. No one is challenging the right of the company to do business. I have bought plenty of gravel from Colarusso. Hudson passed zoning laws restricting industrial activity at our waterfront in 2011.
Time's up.
Pardon? That's 3 minutes. All right, well, I'm sorry I can't read the rest of my statement. However, I am submitting it to the planning board here, and if anyone would like to email me, I'll be very happy to provide a full statement. Thank you very much.
And I just want to mention, we will make a file of all the letters accessible on the city website in a week or so, but we'll get them all together.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm Virginia Martin. I live 724 Warren Street, and for me, there are a lot of unknowns here, and that makes me uncomfortable. I don't know, for example, how many of Colarusso's trucks travel the city's streets now, even though you folks have asked repeatedly for that information. I don't know what the company's plans are and if they plan to sell, perhaps to a multinational corporation. I don't know how our waterfront can develop to the benefit of the city's residents if more truck traffic is allowed. I don't know the status of that 4.4 acre waterfront parcel that's currently contested, right? I don't know why the city is considering another giveaway to Colarusso. We already made a deal, didn't we? There was a compromise negotiated in 2011. I don't know if this will go before the zoning board, given that there's the intrusion of their new Hall Road into the conservation district. I don't know if this is a final public hearing, and given all the other unknowns, if we'll be invited to weigh in once all the unknowns are known. I thought that that's when public hearings are supposed to be held, when everything is known. What I do know is that we have the law, and we have what was already agreed to, and you all have your principles, and all that is what should be followed, no matter who's trying to gnaw away at your resolve. And trust me, I know something about standing firm in the face of pressure. I also know that there are too many unknowns now for you, our city's planning board, to enter into any kind of agreement. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I have a letter. I'm a member of staff for Assemblymember Dee Dee Barrett, and Dee Dee this afternoon wrote a letter that she would like me to read to the planning board. Sure.
What's your name?
My name is Matt Hartzog, and I'm a member of staff for Dee Dee Barrett. Take my class. Dear members of the City of Hudson Planning Board, thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts, as well as some related information, as you consider the important matter of a conditional use permit for the Hall Road application made by A. Colarusso and Sons. With all due appreciation for long-term local business, I think you should recognize, as I do, that the approval and the construction of a 2-lane Hall Road and the resulting increase in trucks would permanently alter the character of the South Bay and have a lasting impact on traffic, the environment, the use of Hudson's waterfront, and the city's future economy. Therefore, I urge you to take your time and to fully examine the options and the implications before you make any decisions. New York State has just invested $10 million through the Downtown Revitalization Initiative in the neighborhoods of Hudson along the waterfront. recognizing the city's future as a vital, vibrant, and diverse community that embraces its past while creating a sustainable future. Essential to this is ensuring a mixed-use district that supports coexistence of industry, culture, tourism, and recreation. Consistent with this intention, the most recent New York State budget included a $100,000 grant for the purposes of conducting an origin and destination study of truck traffic in the city of Hudson and the surrounding towns. The New York State Department of Transportation has recommended this step as the next essential action needed to move forward with potential rerouting the truck traffic that enters, travels through, and then exits the city of Hudson. While the whole road is a part of the issue of truck traffic, it is only one part of the authorized study, which should also look at the other streets including 3rd, Columbia, Worth, Green, and Fairview that also see heavy truck traffic, as well as the routes through which the towns abutting the city. Thank you for your willingness to listen to the public's comments. You are charged with a weighty decision that will significantly impact people's homes, businesses, and livelihoods, as well as our air quality, neighborhood character, safety, and future. Please take your time with this application and do not hesitate to reach out to my office with questions or if we can be of any help. Sincerely, Dee Dee Barrett.
Thank you.
And this was emailed to all of you this afternoon.
Great, thank you so much. We have Kristen, Ron, and Jeff, and Selena, and then the 4 people.
Next 3 on the list?
So Kristen Grand, are you here? Kristen? Who signed up? It says Kristen Gerard, sorry.
I'll yield my time.
Okay, all right. Yes, we definitely would like you to sign up, Mr. Dow. So let me pass this over to you now. Okay, great. So, Jeff, are you here? Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and good people in the audience. My name is Jeff Anzavino, Director of Land Use Advocacy at Scenic Hudson. We submitted a longer letter this morning, and I'll just paraphrase this in deference to everyone else's time to try to stay within 3 minutes. As the planning board deliberates here, you should bear in mind the LWRP and its goals. In 2011, the LWRP recommended zoning amendments that were designed to protect South Bay to the greatest extent possible. And at the same time, residents of Hudson and others, including Scenic Hudson, were concerned that large, heavily laden gravel trucks were traversing the city streets. This resulted in environmental justice impacts, and the LWRP sought an alternative to this. In order to balance these goals, the LWRP recommended 2 types of zoning, or 2 zoning changes. One, this core riverfront district would go along the causeway, and a recreational conservation district was established throughout the remainder of South Bay. According to the final generic environmental impact statement, the purpose of that core riverfront district was to give the city the ability to control, through special use permit process, any kind of improvements along that causeway. And importantly, the LWRP intended for the use of that causeway by heavy trucks only as a temporary measure in order to immediately eliminate truck traffic in residential neighborhoods. As a result, the LWRP took a 2-phased approach. Use of the causeway as a whole road was to be temporary until another route was selected around LB Furniture. And the public was also to gain a permanent public easement access to use the causeway for access along to the waterfront. When the trucks weren't there, and the LWRP also states that once the causeway became a truck route, commercial vehicles accessing Front Street to the port would be prohibited on Columbia Street below 3rd Street. So as you consider this application, we hope that the outcome, whether it's up or down, takes into account these goals of the LWRP. Also outlined in our letter, there are ways through the zoning code that can be used. We fully, seeker, I think it's important to understand that this is subject to seeker, and we think that the planning board should classify this action and conduct a thorough, hard look and make the seeker determination before it deems this application complete. We think that's essential.
The other thing that has to do with the zoning, we understand there's this question of whether or not the core riverfront district that no one seems to know the exact bounds of that district, and we believe that the city should determine whether or not exactly what the bounds of this district is, and whether that's a threshold issue that must be addressed before this application even goes forward. So we appreciate the opportunity to make these comments tonight. Please consider the longer letter that we gave you earlier today. Thank you.
Exactly 3 minutes. That's how it's done.
Nicely done.
It's not my Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole Vidor. I live on Allen Street. I watch the cement trucks every day, all day. What I find so extraordinary about this is Colarusso stands up here and says, you give us that 2-lane and then we'll take this nice road that we have through the woods and you'll never see any of these trucks. Why can't we do that now? Why do we have to give our waterfront away and exchange it for a 2-lane highway when you can come through the woods and do what you're already doing? The other thing I want to say is we've moved into a whole new time in Hudson, and businesses are working really closely with residents to create a really balanced and thriving city. Colarusso doesn't give a damn about that. And I think that's something to really look at, and I really feel like literally we're being sold down the river. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris McManus. I'm on Worth Avenue. I want to address something a little bit different, and that is the fact that there is a very dangerous narrative that's being built up around this. And that is that anybody who opposes Colarusso is anti-business and that they are looking to take jobs out of Hudson, and that is simply not the case. I'm pro-business. I think everybody in Hudson wants our businesses to thrive, but businesses have to follow the rules. And I take great offense to a company that sues our great city and goes to extraordinary lengths to try to push us away and subvert this process in our board. I was told by a current existing board member that I would not be happy until Colarusso was kicked out of Hudson. That is categorically false. And so I think that we have to take the rhetoric down because it's dividing us, and we have to realize that everybody here is pro-business, but we want to explore and look at the fairest and best way for Colarusso to do this and also benefit the citizens of Hudson.
All right. Thank you. Donna Strites? Larry Bone?
You got a microphone you can speak it?
Come on up. And then Annette Perry after that.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes? Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Larry Bannon. I'm an architect. I live on and work at 322 State Street, and I will address my comments to the board. As an architect, and I know that at least Walter is also an architect, and Clark is a planner, I would ask the planning board to plan. There are lots of unknowns here. There are many things that we don't fully understand, and I would implore the board to take the necessary time to make sure that what we do is the best thing for the long-term future of this city. And just standing here tonight and hearing people talk, there are so many things that are just not clear. The applicant, for instance, seems to say that trucks will come off of city streets if we approve a 2-lane haul road. Is that so? Have they committed to that? My understanding is they have not committed to that. Can we as a planning board, can you as a planning board, work with them to genuinely understand what the implications for our streets are if indeed there were to be a haul road? Are we locked in a narrative that with no solution? We're talking about a haul road. We are not the only city on the planet that has a point of extraction a mile away from the point of demarcation, right? Our distribution. There are rail spurs, there are conveyor belts, there are other ways than loading gravel onto a truck and delivering it to the Hudson River. Have we fully looked at those options? If the corporation were actually bearing the costs and consequences of their decisions, would the hoverboard actually be the best option? Right? If they had to pay for the damage to our streets and for the noise and pollution caused by those trucks, perhaps indeed a hoverboard is not the ideal solution for the corporation. Right? Can we plan? I'm so confused about why it seems to me that Colarusso bought property with a non-conforming use. If they did that, what was their expectation of the city's role in approving a use that was non-conforming? At some point there would have to be planning or strong-arming. And I would hope that it would be the latter, no, excuse me, the former and not the latter. And I think it's the planning board role to assert local cooperation, jurisdiction, and authority over a free agent or a free actor. We need to plan. Even something as simple, if I understand it, the bulkhead was repaired without a permit. If that's the case, that indicates a casual disregard for the capacity of government to oversee the actions of private citizens. And the nature of government is that we yield ourselves over to an authority that we check through the ballot box. I have no ballot box control over Colarusso, that's fine, but I do have the right to ask the public planning board to act in the true public interest and, frankly, again, to plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we've got to Annette.
I'm here not to put down anybody. My father used to work for Mr. Colarusso. I live in front in Columbia Street, so I forgot to bring my petitions that I got from all the families that got the trucks go back and forth. If you live down street where I live at, half of y'all don't, not even from Hudson, so y'all won't understand. Miss Linda Musman is right here. She know what I'm talking about. I am the person that gets up every single morning and try to make sure that the kids be safe. I think that Mr. Colarusso, I might don't be smarter than none of y'all guys in here, but I got common sense. And I think while everybody's sitting here putting him down, if y'all talk to him, talk to all his people he got back there, I think that he has a solution. And I think that his solution will work. We need to get these trucks off of Front and Columbia Street. We have, everybody that live on Front and Columbia Street has to start at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work through the day. These trucks is up and down. I have to keep these kids safe. I'm out there constantly keeping these kids safe. I've been here all my life. My father used to work with him. So we got to be a good guy if my father used to work for him. And I love my father to death, and he's gone. And I love these kids to death. And Miss Linda must have known I'm not just sitting here want to get up here and ramp and rage. I think that he has a good solution. I've been here all my life. And we should try to work together with the board and Mr. Colarusso and make it better for the people that have to live out Front in Columbia Street. I've been listening to all the things y'all been saying, and I think it's really wrong just to try to put Colarusso's down. And we need to come up with a solution. And I agree with the solution that he has. Linda Musman knows that I'm telling the truth. The kids down there on Front in Columbia, I'm the bus aide. I have to get them on the bus. It's trucks coming. Nobody never got hit, thank God. They work with us. If we call him, they'll do something different. But I think the solution that Colarusso got will be the best solution.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dominic Keppel.
Well, my name is Dominic Capel. I'm a resident of Hudson for 57 years. My family had businesses on Columbia 3rd, 5th. I lived on Columbia Street 612 for 25 years. For 25 years, my mother, God rest her soul, lived in 92. She couldn't watch TV. I had to clean her car every day. The house is dusty. I mean, I do see some of my next door neighbors, my old next door neighbors. This is about the city of Hudson. Saving money, making Hudson what's good. It's not about what's going to happen in the woods. They're going to make Hudson downtown beautiful. They always did what they had to do. We need to have safer roads, cleaner roads. less traffic on our streets. I seen a gentleman get hit right in front of me when I was a little kid by a tractor and trailer. My father drove tractor and trailer for 38 years. I started driving tractor and trailer since 1993, and I'm still driving a tractor and trailer. It's tough driving through Manhattan. It's tough driving through Queens. Coming down the city Hudson, Columbia Street, which I've been doing now for the last 3 weeks, is very hard. First of all, no parking. Someone pulls out. It takes a tractor and trailer to stop at 20 miles an hour, 135 feet. If a kid ran out in front of a car, in between cars. I mean, if we can eliminate the traffic in the city of Hudson through a road that they are going to build at no cost of the city of Hudson, to keep the traffic, the wear and tear on the streets safer for the residents of the city of Hudson, it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's the people that I'm hearing, and I think that Dee Dee Barrett's person even read something. I mean, she said something where it said, it is safer for Hudson. If we got to keep the traffic out of Hudson, it's safer. If they're going to pay for everything, it's a no-brainer. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. David Kermani?
I'll email it.
You want to email it? Okay. Carl Bethage? Anybody? Is that right? Is that how you spell it? Carl? Anybody named Carl sign up? No? Barbara Dagg? Dave?
Yeah. May I be heard from back here? No. Is it sufficient?
Come on up.
I apologize.
After Barbara, it will be Howard Branston, and then Wayne Heck, and then Linda Mussman.
Oh, I'm sorry. One mic kind of take. First of all, board, thank you very much. This is
Use the mic.
That's probably a good thing. I'm a resident of Hudson that has nothing but love for this river and my community. And I was very dismayed to what I thought was rumor at the time, and I've heard it confirmed this evening, that the Colarusso company made certain changes without approval. And for me, I mean, being crestfallen, I tend to wear my heart on the sleeve.
Speak in the mic.
But that was, for me, a loss of good neighbor status. So I'm going to look at them more closely. Working at the warehouse for almost 3 years, seeing the trucks, and I know the comment was made it would be paved to Hudson Road standards. Well, hopefully, I would think they'd aim a little higher, but that it would eliminate dust. I mean, we're talking about moving stone, and no, there's always going to be dust. And of course, I don't clean my windows anyway, so I don't take that personally. But if this were 1980, I think, well, this is a very reasonable dialogue we're having. But having seen Sandy flood our parking lot, our waterfront, that it's going to be 2020 in a hot minute, actually not soon enough, I can't believe how limited this scope is, not looking at the potential for water rising. And as I heard earlier, why are they using the waterways anyway? Acme has the old tracks up at the hill. I mean, I'm not saying going back to push carts, but there are options. And I heard just very recently someone say, well, there are the roads or going through the wetlands. And I cannot believe I'm the first one using the word wetlands. We know now they are critical. The last decade, it used to be, you know, the flush to keep the salt at bay. And now in terms of flooding, they just have a whole new prominence, and that's not been addressed at all. And I don't want to go any further without thanking my Hudson Valley Alliance, my only hope. I thank you for this opportunity because I thought my heart was going to explode. I've gotten stone dust from Colarusso for years, and I'm grateful for them, but this time is different. And thanks so much. And I did not get an endorsement.
Howard Benson?
Is Howard here?
Howard? Okay. What about Wayne Heck?
Oh, sorry.
too. I know how you feel.
Hi, Wayne Heck, and I'm here because I'm in support of Colarusso's Hall Road. As a truck driver myself, I haul for Colarusso, not a company employee, but somebody that works with them. And it's getting terrible coming down through the city of Hudson, and the Hall Road to me is a much better idea because it gets us away from the city. You got more traffic coming into the city with the people coming out of New York City. And they don't pay attention, they pull out, they run red lights. If I had $1 for everybody that ran a red light by Stewart's, I wouldn't have to be going down the Hall Road. I wouldn't have to be going down Columbia Street. I could sit home, collect the revenue. It's getting dangerous out there. We had a guy today. Another car ran into him because the guy wasn't looking. He admitted he was wrong. He wasn't paying attention. You got kids, people texting on their phone, walking out into the street. I have 116,000 pounds behind me. If I hit the brakes and I'm from me to you away because you walked out, I'm going to run you over. I've got to live with that.
Well, then you never get a conditional use permit.
So moving into the Hall Road to me is the best decision. And to address the woman that said that the stones create dust. When I pick them stones up, they've been washed. They have hoses running on them so the dust doesn't come off them. When I dump them, there's no dust. So that's all I have to say. We need the Hall Road. Thank you.
Okay, Linda. After Linda, it's Melissa.
Yeah, I just want to share my experience. I live and work in the 4th Ward. I'm the 4th Ward supervisor, and the trucks pass my building every day, time and space limited. Also want to alert the board that North 4th Street and Columbia has consistently had multiple accidents because for some reason no one seems to be able to figure out that stop line. The trucks, and speaking to Annette's concern, these are, our neighborhood has children, many people walk in our neighborhood, and the trucks are clearly a hazard. Have been, we not only pay a price for all the trucks that run through Hudson, but the gravel trucks. In addition, in the last X years, since ONG acquired the contract with Colarusso, this has been a new addition to our city. I've been on the LWRP committee and never ever endorsed the idea of having trucks through or use the Hall Road, just to clear up any confusion about what people think about what I think about the waterfront. I do not think the trucks belong in the waterfront, period. The Hall Road is a long and complicated discussion that happened after I was involved with the LWRP. I don't think it's a solution. However, speaking to Annette, the children, my neighbors, the houses, the sewers that have been rebuilt during this time, one is in front of TSL, it's been dug up 3 times. One is on the 300 block that's been dug up at least 3 or 4 times. These are not small things, these are huge issues that the DPW has taken on to rebuild, and I don't believe Colarusso has paid for any of those damages. These are all, excuse me, this is all taxpayer money that has put this extreme heavy use in our infrastructure that simply can't take it. So I want to just, reality is, by any means necessary, the trucks really do not belong in our city. However that's going to happen, I think by any means necessary, that is the bottom line. I don't think it's going to put Colarusso out of business. I think it's going to affect the port. But the reality is, bearing the weight of all these trucks in our city is very difficult in the community in which we live and work and try to enjoy and want to prosper in. So thank you. I'll send you some more comments, but I wanted to talk about the trucks.
Thank you very much.
How's it going? Tony Stone, First Ward. I'm just going to read a letter to you guys and then I'll submit this afterwards. I want to thank you for having this public hearing on this matter before you. I hope there's many more hearings. To begin, I want to establish that Colarusso is a very important company for our area And this is not about banning trucks or banning the port. This is about striking a balance. We feel any increase in volume and infrastructure would end all future mixed use. I also want to address the false crisis the applicant has put forth that pits Hudson Ward against Hudson Ward. Contrary to the narrative of the applicant, trucks could be off almost all of Hudson streets immediately, as Colarusso currently has an option to use their own shorter route that was repaired in 2017. This road leads from Greenport Quarry to the Hudson Port, which is ready to use except for a 50-foot section east of Route 9. All DOC and DOT approvals have been met, as well as Greenport approvals. The stretch of road through the South Bay can currently be used in two directions, as O&G Industries did before Colarusso took over trucking operations. This means none of Colarusso's trucks need to be on Columbia, 3rd, and most of Front Streets. They could be completely out of the 2nd and 4th Ward with the arrival of summer and kids out of school. This is a safety crisis that I urge Colarusso to resolve on their own. If not, I would remind the planning board the extent of their power. The board has the power to shut down operations at the port while the application is under review after the recent court decision. For instance, in exchange for not shutting down operations, the planning board can insist that this road is used before the end of July. You're not suggesting the severe of action immediately, but this is a gentle reminder of how generous the board has been with the applicant in tolerating the strain on the city of Hudson's residents and its infrastructure. If nothing changes in the next couple of months, I do suggest that the planning board entertain this option. With the actual application before you, I'd like to dispel the myth that there's not much the planning board can do. Quite to the contrary, to taking limited action, the LWRP by law obligates the planning board to encourage mixed use and impose restrictions and regulations if needed. A brand new 2-lane road with the potential for a 5 to 10-fold increase in traffic would discourage and ultimately end mixed use. The good news is the zoning law tells you how to protect future and the current mixed use. It gives you the tools before you. It's obvious to us that limits must be placed by the planning board on Colarusso's use of the dock under a conditional use permit so as to minimize the adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. With those limits, the other parts of the vision, for the visions of the waterfront can be realized. Here's, for example, from the zoning code: loading and unloading operations at the dock shall be conducted in a manner designed to minimize adverse effects on water quality and permitted uses on adjoining property. Legally, shall means mandatory, so loading and unloading operations at the docks must meet that standard. Remember, this is about the planning board being empowered to protect the future of the waterfront. As the code states, any new expanded use must be in harmony and not be detrimental to the orderly development of adjacent properties. We see this application in its proposed new 2-lane road in violation of said code, and it would be absolutely detrimental and not in harmony to the surroundings and future uses. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melissa Oftemauer, co-founder and director of Basilica Hudson. Also recently completed the restoring of the historic Allen Street School, elementary school. Thank you, all of you in particular, for coming here, and thank you for listening, considering, and we urge you to take your time. My husband and I and our daughter spend all day, every day, raising a child overlooking this waterfront. We go to work and we play, and we care about this more than anything in the entire city of Hudson, which is why we have submitted to you the multiple years of engagement and correspondence we've had with you, as well as state officials. I want to start with a big, lofty idea for every single person in this room, is that we cannot let a company and one proposed plan to pit our entire city against each other. I'm so glad that has been brought up a few times. We should not be one side of town against another side of town. This is an opportunity for us to finally think about Hudson. Most of us that have been here, whether it's 10 years or 50 years, know there's been a lot of change and a lot of dramatic stagnancy as well as drama on our Hudson waterfront. Starting hundreds of years ago, it's been boom and bust economy nonstop. So this is an opportunity for us to take our time and figure out what the right long-term sustainable opportunity is. In specific, we're asking the City Planning Board to do as we have and consider how we could make this like the LWRP. Thank you everyone for mentioning all that. This is supposed to be a mixed-use people's waterfront as well as industry. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that any landowner is better than any other landowner. And no one has more rights or is above the law of anyone. I'm simply saying that we must all follow the city zoning. And we know the zone and code went quite well because we're right down on South Front Street. And I want to urge everyone to realize South Front Street and North Front Street are the same. We get trucks, we have children, we walk dogs. It is all the same. It is one city. And we are familiar with that code, and we have been there since 2010. There's been decades before us, and I know it's daunting, but you must take in consideration the decades before us. Some of you who are on the planning board now, who were not here, even specifically during the 2011 zoning adopted by the city council upon submitting the LWRP, which was also adopted, it proposed. The law is on our side, it's on your side, and my big concern about the proposed expanded operations, that it will dominate all other activities on the waterfront. Honestly, right now, yes, because there's no sidewalks or lights and there's a dusty road and perhaps the gravel is washed, but currently, without expanded operations, we suffer from endless trucks driving in front of South Front and doing that crazy dangerous turn over the tracks. Even if I had no say, how that track crossing, the 290-degree crossing, anyway, lots of other information. I want this to be an opportunity for us to unify and really, really take our time, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now Jennifer Stockman, and then after Jennifer, Leona Christie, and then Rebecca Wolf. Stockmeyer, excuse me.
I'm Jennifer Stockmeyer. Anyway, I live on Columbia Street, 610 Columbia Street. I've been there since 2002. And I can honestly say within the last few years, the level of noise and shaking of my house every time a truck goes through is incredible. I mean, we're nervous that our house is in danger. And if it's true what I'm hearing tonight by fellow citizens, that you could put a stop to it today, please do. Because if you could say, no, you can't come down Columbia Street, they could just stop with or without the Hall Road. I mean, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I'm hearing. And so then I don't see why you're not taking that as something to do. Because right now, today, I suffer every day with the trucks that come in front of my house. That's all, and of course for the kids and everybody else. I mean, I know that's just my personal experience, but it's clear it's hurting a lot of people. So please, I implore you, even before you settle this, just stop the trucks. Thank you.
Okay, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Wolf. I live on Lower Union Street, and I actually thought I was just signing in like I'm here, but I thought I would just take the opportunity to echo the request for time to consider especially environmental analysis of impact. That seems to me to be, in terms of there being increased usage, increased trucks, air quality seems to be of a primary concern to anyone, really. So, and it's definitely my concern. So, thank you.
Susan Meyer?
I'll partially yield, but I have a question. My question is, the Hall Road as designed would take away truck traffic from Colarusso trucks and also their customers, is that correct? And not from, it's not all the trucks that come in and out of Hudson, it's simply that group of trucks. And I think that's an important component of this. So, and I'm not in favor of this whole.
Then Ken Dow? Waiting in the wings. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ken Dow. I've done a lot of legal work on related matters on this going back to 2013. I'm addressing the dock, not the road. They're different. I mean, they're connected, but these comments are directed to matters of the dock. In the first place, I was really surprised to hear the initial presentation by the applicant because it continues to misrepresent what they have continually done, which is to act as if this is about the bulkhead. It is not about the bulkhead. We've been through this over and over. The bulkhead work at this stage is important for only one reason. It was the trigger that causes the applicant to come into this board to seek a conditional use for the entire dock operation. It is not about the bulkhead, it is everything they are doing on that parcel. This is very, very clear. It's 325-17.1. It says, anyway, I have to move quickly, but it is very, very clear. It is about the entire thing. They've been told that from the beginning, and they persist in representing it differently. The lawsuit, they were brought in for this conditional use and they tried to cut it off before it happened. They went to the court to try to prevent a review of their work. The court rejected it entirely. I was the attorney on that. All of their claims were rejected in their entirety. So the first thing that I didn't think I was going to have to address is what this is about. It is not about the bulkhead work. That was the trigger and only that. So Section 325-17 D1 says, any existing commercial dock operation may continue to operate as a non-conforming use until such time as one or more of the actions or events in subsection D above is proposed to be undertaken. That's what's so important about what happened here. When they did the bulkhead work, it was one of those actions. So it did two things. It terminated their right to operate as a non-conforming use. They could operate as a non-conforming use until one of these actions took place. So they have lost the right to operate as a non-conforming use, but in a very unusual piece of law in Hudson, when that happens, they are entitled to come in and request a conditional use permit, which is actually more favorable to them if they were to get it. But that's where we are. The entire operation is at issue here, and they no longer have a right to operate as a non-conforming. The only way they can proceed now is to get a conditional use permit. It's actually not clear from the record whether they actually ever had a right to operate as a non-conforming use. Although it's in the law, the record in the petitions and the court papers, it was never even established that there was use for a period of years. And if there wasn't, that would have been lost with no right to continue in any way. In fact, there were sworn representations in their papers that called into question whether the dock was functional for several years. So that's an important issue to look at. So this is all important because having lost that, the applicant is coming to the planning board in the position of having no right to operate. They're coming in like a new applicant. They're like someone coming into a vacant lot in that location who wants to create a commercial dock operation. That is a conditional use permit. If they show under the code that they meet all of the requirements and that the impacts are within what's permitted by the thing, then you make a determination that they're entitled to that conditional use permit. But the thing is, there is no continuity. This is not an ongoing thing that they have the right, that they've had the right, that they have the right to do, and we're just carrying it into a new form. There is no right. They need to show that as if it's really, they're like some new applicant coming in out of the blue asking to do this on this parcel. So the other thing is, what is the conditional use you're looking at? People talk about commercial dock operations. That's actually not the conditional use that is stated in the code. What it is continuation of existing commercial dock operations, and there's more language, as such uses existed on the effective date of this law in 2011. That's the extent of the scope of what can be given here, is to operate as they existed on the effective date in 2011. As such, you need to know what was going on then, because that's a crucial benchmark. The last point, the 4.4 acres, the city owns it. I did the work on it, but more importantly, the Common Council got a title search. Chairman Moore, I have the minutes right in front of me. Okay, he said, title search, the city owns it. So we'll submit more in writing and probably try to get through it in another meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Well, I should ask the board if they want to comment, but I think it's pretty obvious we're going to hold the public hearing open, and we're going to receive more comments. And I think the only statement I would like to make, a number of people said some very important things. There were some slight mischaracterizations, but that happens. The one thing I would like to point out is that if we had
declared the application complete before we had the public hearing, we would not be able to incorporate all of the information that we're now receiving from you all. I mean, I'm addressing the point that we should not have had to hold a public hearing before we felt we had all the information. I very strongly contest that one point. I very strongly believe we're having this hearing in order to hear what everybody says. We're going to give you all the opportunity we can to hear what you say. We're going to make a record, and that will all be a part of the final decision making, and we will not make any decisions until we reach the point where the entire board feels comfortable with that. So please, we are your neighbors and your friends. Put your trust in us. We'll work together, and hopefully this will, in the next couple of meetings, resolve itself into something, but we will see. Now, does anybody else want to?
I just want to say that all of our email addresses are on the city website under the planning board link, so there's no reason to not get in touch with us.
And this is Laura Margolis. I'd just like to reiterate what Walter said. And certainly I understand everybody that was talking about the fact that they felt that we shouldn't have this public hearing. But we have been assured by our attorney that we are absolutely lose nothing by having this public meeting now, by rendering the application complete does not mean that changes can't be made. We have not hurt the process at all. What it did allow us is to be able to start to hear you. So thank you for listening to me, but that's important that you know that there's nothing that is hurt by having this public meeting.
I just want to make one quick comment too, and I appreciate Kendall's comments because he was the representative of the city in confronting the lawsuit against City of Hudson. There are two applications in front of us, the Hall Road and the dock. And the dock repair triggered, as Ken pointed out, triggered our authority to review not just the site plan, but the entire operation on the dock. And I know that's perhaps confusing, it's been confusing to me, but basically what we are looking at are two different items. I know they're combined in this hearing, but I think the board fully understands, the public should fully understand that the planning board has not just the right, but the obligation to review the operations on the dock as part of this review.
Okay, so can I have a motion to continue the public hearing?
So moved. I move to continue the public hearing to next month.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, so meeting will be reconvened a month from tonight.